Hey, hello Richard from
Hello.
Taboo Group. Welcome
going?
to Fashion Exposed.
Thank you.
So we were speaking today about social media, engaging in that non-traditional sense online.
Yes.
You mentioned social purpose insight and why should we care? What do you consider with social media and as being an integral part of a marketing campaign now? Is it something that we should all be doing?
Well, I think it's an opportunity to connect with customers in a way that we haven't had in the past, because you can actually receive their communications back en masse, and that's why fundamentally, whether it's through a Facebook or a Twitter or a Pinterest, it's a brilliant opportunity for anybody that's marketing a product or a brand, because never before have you been able to have people talk back to you in the tens and hundreds of thousands. So I think that's the best argument for everyone to be involved, because that's too good an opportunity to pass up, whether it's from a research and development perspective, whether it's from people sharing your communications messages and pushing it to their other peers. It's the opportunities are about.
You spoke of opinion leader seeding as well, and this is sort of about finding brand advocates to recommend your product.
Sure.
How do you go about finding these people and getting them involved in your marketing and with your brand?
Well, I think there's no real easy answer. Unfortunately, in a way, it just takes time, and you've got to actually try and identify the different subcultures that exist around your industry or around your product or your brand or what you're doing. And those subcultures might be people who have different preferences and different likes, but often when you identify them, you'll find that there are a handful of people, of key people, who are leading that movement and leading that subculture. That's what we call the opinion leaders. Now, if you can tailor an approach to those people, and if you can partner with them, then it's a really fantastic way for you to be able to talk to their broader networks and share what you're doing with a much larger audience, and hopefully have them as advocates for you as well.
You also spoke about offline events to drive online chatter. What are some examples of this? Can you sort of explain a bit more?
Sure. Well, the first thing with that is that we've always found the best results in the online environment have come from offline experiences. Social media is, I think, sometimes hamstrung because people only think of it as digital.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think about it as genuine word of mouth and face-to-face communications and experiences that then can be amplified online, then you can get a great result. So, next time you've got an event, or I'm sure a lot of people watching this would have already had events where people might be turning up and they're tweeting about either the event that they're about to go to, or the event that they're at, or they're taking photos of product that they've seen at the event and they're posting it. And that's where the offline and the online worlds come together. So, a lot of it happens organically, but it's more so thinking about that, in advance and from a tactical perspective, and going, okay, well, how can we maximize the offline and online chatter in prelude to whatever our campaign is, and then in the aftermath of whatever our campaign is. Yeah.
Would that be like creating VIP events in store and getting people to come along and having incentives on the night and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'd call that probably, in my mind, I'd say that's level one, that's probably something that a lot of people have already been doing or have done for a long time. But it doesn't always have to be an in-store event with a glass of champagne.
Okay.
What else could you do? What else is appropriate for your brand to do? So it might be, an exclusive, tour of your design facilities with your creative director that you offer to a select group of people, and then they come and they will post and blog about what that was like and what they saw and what they learned and what you're doing. So there are opportunities to create experiences beyond just the in-store event and the season launch. I'd say it's just a matter of creative thinking.
Definitely. You also spoke about brand building communities. How do you go about building brand communities?
Well, the first thing we try and do is look at what the actual business strategy or objectives are, and think about, all right, well, therefore a brand is positioned this way, and once we have that, we say, well, all right, well, what sort of social purpose can the brand therefore exist? So that's usually the beginning of a brand community. Now, when it's some brands, it's easier done than others. Well, I mentioned in the presentation the Harley-Davidson Owners Group, there's a lot of passion about that brand and about that product, and they have their own brand communities that weren't necessarily started by anybody associated with Harley-Davidson. So sometimes you get lucky like that, but other times you want to think about, how can I actually take this product offering and our value proposition and turn it into something that can be a movement people will care about. It's not an easy process at all, but it takes a bit of time invested up front and a bit of lateral thinking, and if you can actually nail it, then it's a great foundation for a long-term build in the social media space.
Absolutely.
90 Plus is a great example as well.
And what do you say to people, you know, sort of a bit afraid of getting negative feedback, you know, getting online, and, you know, people can say, they can recommend, but they can also say negative things about the brand?
I think the first thing I'd say against that is that it happens to everyone.
Yep.
It happens to every brand. Sometimes it can be really extreme, and you've actually got a whole, negative revolt on your hands, and that can be a problem to deal with. Even under that worst case scenario though, it's nothing that can't happen in the real world due to a bad PR crisis.
Yep.
You know, it's nothing that doesn't happen all the time. Firms have been dealing with this, for many, many years. So if you look at it in context, if it doesn't happen on the social media space, it can happen just as easily in the real world. So don't worry about it too much. Know that some people are always going to, they're entitled to their own opinion. They're entitled to be negative. Of course, you don't want it to be rife on your page, but if it is rife on your page, then the question is not how do we shut this down, how do we prevent it. The question should be, what are we doing wrong? Fix that, and then you'll find that negativity will disperse.
And is it enough just to have social media channels and just have them open? Like, how do we maximise those channels, and what sort of engagement do we need to, how many hours do we need to be spending on it, and how many updates and things like that? Is that just case by case?
In terms of how many channels should you have, I don't believe that any brand should be in every channel. Maybe if you're the size of a brand such as Coke, then yeah, you kind of want to be in every channel, but you've also got the resources to determine appropriately exactly what you're going to do in each channel, and you have a team built entirely around each one. So under most circumstances, I'd say it's a matter of picking which one is right for you, because you've actually figured out, well, within Pinterest we could have a really great, meaningful, space there, because people really want to know about what our season inspirations are and what we saw when we went to, Fashion Week in Milan, and we're going to post that, and that's our value proposition. If you do that better than anybody else in Pinterest, then I think you'll find you'll get commercial results at the end of it. But if you're diluting yourself across that, and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all these other things, then that's a really that's a war that you're fighting on a lot of fronts, and your competitors are probably cluttered and in there also at the same time. So I don't know if I've answered the
And if you've limited resources, you can dilute your message as well.
Precisely. Yeah, precisely. Sometimes if you think about social media like you would think about it of a traditional advertising campaign, in a traditional advertising campaign, a large part of the process at the start is, what is our creative idea? What's our big idea? What's our big message that we want to get out there? Figure that out, and then they throw it into a television execution, a billboard execution, and so on. If you think about social media, it's similar. Instead of it just being a big creative idea, it's actually a big idea around some sort of meaningful social purpose. Right? You nail that idea, then pretty quickly it will tell you whether you should be in Pinterest or whether you should be in Twitter. It will make sense, because you'll say, oh well, no, the best channel for that is actually Facebook or Twitter.
Fantastic.
Or maybe it's a mobile app.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today, Richard.
No problem. Thanks for having me.